Mr. Singh, the lateral entry point is just a very small percentage of the permanent civil service, like you put it. You said time to put that whole concept on the drawing board. What changes would you think are necessary to consider at this point of time to the permanent civil service, as you call it?
Well, there are lots of changes. Siddharth, you're aware of this. I was surprised that the first committee on administrative reforms was set up even before we became a republic. If we look at the first few pages of the report, of the Gopalaswamy Ayyangar report, that gave a report in 1949 on some of the changes and some of the safeguards which you need to have. It was followed by a successive administrative reforms committee. We recall many of them. There was one that was led, the first one, by the former Prime Minister, Morarji Desai, in 1966. You had many other committees which have gone into what kind of changes. Some changes have taken place. Whether they are adequate or not is historically must be judged in the context that the challenges of the state have changed. What is the responsibility for permanent civil service? Why should we have a permanent civil service? It's not an end in itself. The end must be improving the life quality of people, pushing India into a growth trajectory which you rightly pointed out, must be well above 7% to realize the quest of a developed India by the time when we get our first 100 years of independence. These changes will have to take place, as I said in my earlier comments, at multiple levels. What should be the changes which are needed at this level of the central government? We must begin by the recruitment policies itself. There's a committee on recruitment, which was set up quite some time ago, which made some important, robust recommendations that would the recruitment process recognize the fact that the pedagogy today must be done in a manner and educational skills which are in consonance with the kind of far-reaching technological changes which take place. A few days ago, I was in a conversation with the Deputy Managing Director of the IMF, and this issue came up that India is adopting technology at a speed which is very, very commendable, particularly artificial intelligence. But what about jobs, gainful employment opportunities? Is our pedagogy and education system in consonance with being able to create high-quality jobs, along with being able to continue reforms which will enable us to grow at 7% plus in the medium term? And these are changes which must begin in the educational system, then in the recruitment process, then the manner in which jobs and responsibilities are assigned at the district level, at the state level, and of course being able to, at the central level. Now, there was a virtue once upon a time, Siddharth, that you preferred dilettantes instead of experts. You preferred people who had multiple skills than only domain experts. We need to shift that focus a bit in being able to combine the virtues of meritocracy, the virtues of domain understanding and knowledge, along with managerial capabilities, to being able to administer a complex country like this, which has challenges of multiple forms of different state governments, which can combine, in the end, much higher levels of productivity of the state. Let me give you an example. People feel that we are one too many in government. But do you know that our per capita expenditure as part of the GDP in the permanent civil service establishment does not compare too favorably with the peer group countries? The total number of policemen, which you take, just give you an example of total number of policemen, having 156 policemen for 1 lakh people, way below international standards. Total number of doctors, if you include the Ayush doctors, 1 doctor for 1,000 people. 1 nurse, paramedic, for 1,458 people. This is the understaffing. But more than increasing the numbers, it has to be more purposive staffing. in a multiple way.
Do these numbers need to be added within the government framework, or should it happen in the private sector? The best healthcare is now delivered by private hands. The best airlines in India are run by private hands. The examples are multiple. You can go down to education as well. Do you still need to ramp up the government, or does the big government have to be reduced?
You need to do both, because leaving this entirely to market forces, there's innumerable literature which is available that the market forces also require a degree in which you moderate the free play of market forces. Relying on market forces totally would not deliver the most optimum outcomes. The private forces must also feel that there is a public sector, and there are certain responsibilities with the public sector. For instance, security, which I mentioned, policing, jails, a reform of the judicial system. All that cannot be outsourced to private sources, but you need to make them more purposive. For instance, I was amazed to know, Siddharth, that today, in terms of crime, if you used AI in a more imaginative way, at least for some of the states where the crime record is not particularly laudable, we do not even know the time of the crime, an area in which artificial intelligence and technology can buttress with the existing public sector to deliver much better outcomes. So I would really plead for a more purposive collaboration and partnership between public and private sector in the area of the entire working of the state apparatus.